English paper piecing is one of my grounding quilting activities. It is such a refining, very calm piecing method to me because it's all by hand, most of it. And I'm trying to get this quilt done so that my mother can hand quilt this one for me. And I have talked a little bit about this in a few of my previous videos, but I'm doing a Grandma's Flower Garden in all of Joe Morton's fabrics. This one has been done, but you can see all my little holes, and I'm going to explain that process here in just a second. It starts with a hexagon. I've got everything right here on my lap. It starts with a hexagon, a paper piecing hexagon. This one happens to finish at 1.5 inches. You can either use a scrap, obviously, or these are pre-cut. You can have a machine. I buy these by the kit from a quilt store that I used to frequent. And I think they were like, it was when I worked there, so I even got 30% off. But they were $3 or $4 anyway. With my hexie here, my paper hexie, I take a paper punch and I poke a hole in the middle of it. I'll try and hold it here against my black dress. Maybe you can see it easier. I poke a hole in it and I take my scrap of fabric, kind of center it on there like so, and then I take a very small applique pin and pin it so it's not going to shift, and that's kind of what you end up with. I don't know if you can see that teeny tiny pin right there, if I can get the camera right, just so it holds it and it won't shift as you're working with it. Then I take a fabric glue pen here. This one happens to be by Fons and Porter. They also have them put out by Sew Line. I have 2 or 3 fabric glue pens. And I will glue, now this looks pink and this one's blue, the other one's pink, but it will dry clear. And I glue this all the way around and press it down and end up with and take the pin out, and then I end up with something like this. Let me put it against my dress. I end up with something like that. It's all glued down around the edge. This is a completed hexie. But you need several of these to make this. See how there's one color of fabric in here, another, and then another. This is one that I've started to piece together, and this will go on, and I've got 4 more to put on here. But you can fold this paper any which direction as I'm working on it. Here's my needle. I don't know if you can see that. I try to stick it in where there's a hole just to keep it safe. But even though around each hexie I have glued, I did start to stitch some of them, and I realized it was taking me a little too long, and I wanted to speed up this process. I've got like 70 of these to make. I've only got about 10 or 12 done. But once you get these honeycombs all put together, and I've got, like I said, I've got 5 left on here to do, then I will iron this nice and flat, put it in the ones that are done, and start another one. Now, because this is something I can do in the car, I have several, this is what the kits look like. Oh, let me get another one. This is what the kits look like when I buy them from the store. The papers are included with all the small fabric pieces. Once I get them all glued, I still put them back in the pouch, and this is what they look like. They're all done now. They're all glued around the hexie, the shape. And then from there, I take the needle and thread. Here's another one that I've gotten finished. Anyway, all the pieces are in there. Then I take the needle and I go start the process of piecing these all together. Now, the method I use, it's kind of small. You can't see it, obviously, but I fold this in half. And some people do a whip stitch. I use a ladder stitch where you go up and over and up and over and up and over. And you can YouTube or Google that. I don't have the camera set up to show close-up work like that. But I think it's just a very calming, it's one of the most refined ways I know to quilt. English paper piecing has been around quite some time. They even have different shapes. I saw, I want to say it's a Lucy Boston, the shape that was absolutely stunning. The hexie's probably the most common. And the method I use is very, like I said, I can do it if I'm traveling in the car. Most of the time I'm traveling by myself, so obviously I can't do this. But in a hotel room or just on, it's a good carry-along project if I'm watching my Boise State football team. They're about the only football team I watch. But if I'm watching them, I can work on this. But anyway, English paper piecing is a very calming hand project to do. And to me, it takes the stress out and kind of takes me down a notch and is good therapy for me. So in the words of Martha Stewart, English paper piecing, it's a good thing.